The first 7 M-ATVs, the all-terrain version of the MRAP, will arrive in Afghanistan on Thursday, according to Pentagon spokesman Jeff Morrell. Air Force Master Sergeant George Maurer has more.
The 7 M-ATVs are what the Defense Department calls the first of a massive wave of mine-resistant vehicles, which will eventually total more than 6,600 delivered to coalition forces in Afghanistan over the next year or so. Defense officials call this one of the fastest and highest priority acquisition programs in the history of the Defense Department.
That is really an extraordinary achievement, considering that the contract for production of these highly maneuverable armored trucks was awarded to the Oshkosh Corporation just 3 months ago.
Mr. Morrell also said these vehicles are, in his words, urgently needed because IEDs are claiming more lives of coalition forces in Afghanistan than ever before. He also said defense leaders hope the M-ATV will have the same impact in Afghanistan as the MRAP did in Iraq. Defense leaders see the M-ATV as key to defeating the insurgents and winning the trust of the Afghan people. And finally, Mr. Morrell said with so much at stake, Defense Secretary Robert Gates will be closely monitoring the impact of these vehicles in Afghanistan. From the Pentagon, I'm Air Force Master Sergeant George Maurer.
The top U.S. commander in Iraq told a House committee Wednesday the U.S. will withdraw about 4,000 more troops from Iraq by the end of next month. General Raymond Odierno says the improved capabilities of Iraq's security forces, along with the decreasing violence, allows the U.S. to reduce its military presence.
We have approximately 124,000 troops and 11 brigade combat teams operating Iraq today. By the end of October, I believe we'll be down to 120,000 troops in Iraq. As we go forward, we'll thin our lines across Iraq in order to reduce the risk and sustain stability through a deliberate transition of our responsibilities to the Iraqi security forces.
General Odierno also said the U.S. is on track to reduce its footprint to about 50,000 troops by the end of August 2010. Well, Admiral Gary Roughead, Chief of Naval Operations, said cases of piracy are actually decreasing off the coast to Africa thanks to efforts of neighboring navies.
The drop in piracy has been really quite dramatic. And going back a few years in the Straits of Malacca, the numbers were quite high, high enough to the point where insurance companies were beginning to take action. But the success has turned that around. And it's also worthy of note that, for example, Malaysia has also contributed to the counter-piracy operations off of Somalia, which shows not just the interest in dealing with the threat there, but having someone like Malaysia and the lessons and the experiences that they have had and the successes they have had becoming part of the collaborative effort in addressing piracy off the coast of Africa.
The Admiral briefed foreign media Wednesday in Washington about the upcoming International Sea Power Symposium scheduled for next week in Rhode Island. Fort Dix will change its name on Thursday. The New Jersey installation will join neighboring McGuire Air Force Base and Lakehurst Naval Air Station. It will be called Joint Base McGuire-Dix-Lakehurst, the nation's first 3-service combined base. Defense Department officials merged the 3 as a way to keep them open following its Base Realignment and Closure Act. Fort Dix has been a major wartime mobilization and demobilization center since World War I. The North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, will conduct flight exercises on Thursday. Exercise Falcon Virgo will occur between midnight and 2 a.m. Eastern Time. The exercise will comprise of a series of training flights with the Federal Aviation Administration and other aviation agencies. It's designed to hone NORAD's intercept and identification operations. Residents may see aircraft flying in the vicinity of Washington, D.C. Well, coming up next on Around the Services, Cooking Conundrum. What happens when flames destroy a dining facility that feeds thousands a day? We'll find out. But first, alternative rock. A new edition of Command Performance is ready to be released, and we'll have a sneak peek at the Canadian band Our Lady Peace. Stick around. Sergeant Ted McDonald is back with more.